Hello there, this is Beth with another Froud's Fairy Oracle, and this is the Lady of the Harvest. She's the harvest. She's what you get to reap after you've done all the hard work and growing your crops. You've grown your creations. You've made them become whole. She's that kind of energy of completion. And there's two aspects to that completion. And one is that, yes, everything has ripened and now we get to use it. There's also the other aspect, because even though she's more, let's call it, say, ripe than crone-like, she also embodies some of that crone energy. She is also a card of loss, a card of grief, of dealing with loss and grief and working through it. Along with that whole, hell yeah, we made it, we created something, it's so awesome. So you have like this celebration aspect to her, and you also have the grieving aspect to her, which makes sense when you're looking like at a cyclical kind of wheel of the year stance of moving from extreme abundance, even a good year, to what's going to become scarcity and lean times and people dying from starvation possibly, you know. So there's also that aspect of extreme abundance waning off into a lack with the harvest after the harvest passes. So she does embody a bit of the crone energy. I think this deck has more shades of this kind of energy than a lot of other decks do. Clouds are moving in, so the light's changing. It gets weird. It's weird how much just even a light cloud will reflect and darken at the same time. So you have the completion. Yay, it's done. Created it. And also, and if you think about it, to actually come to think about it, if you've ever done a major event, there's often like this energy, right? Right up until like through the event, and then it's done, and then it's like there's that event letdown at the end where you're like, oh my god, and like it's all done, and what do I do? And it's almost kind of like this huge letdown after this big build up, and now you have nothing to do because it's done, it's out there, you've harvested, and it's like, oh. So, you have that aspect, especially in modern life, because that is a form of harvest when you have that huge event and you create it and you put it out there and you do it, and then it's all done and you're like, what the hell do I do now? I don't know. So that is also a form of loss within a harvest. She, on larger levels, is the willingness to adapt and change and release. She allows healing to happen, but is not in denial of the emotions that happen while you heal, and letting that run as deep or as shallow as it needs to go, because not every loss cuts as deep, and there are often so many layers, especially to a deep loss, that you just keep scratching through the surface, and it may be years before you actually hit the core of that loss sometimes. So loss can change, and the feel of it changes as you change, and as you let go of certain things, it all just kind of changes with you. And the loss can also become a harvest in a way, especially when you're dealing with releasing old attachments and to thought forms and energies and behaviors. She's really a person you would use to work with if you're trying to change mindsets or with negative self-talk, that kind of stuff, letting go, beating yourself up. She is an energy you would use to help release those and adapt and change into what you want to be. She's also being patient with that process. You can't, she's not like, just get it over with, get the grieving over with. No, She's like, this is your process, and your process is going to take as long as it takes. It's not, yeah, it's like this scribble. Yeah, I really believe in the scribble. Life is, you don't, it feels like you're going like this, except when you're going like this and nothing makes sense. And one day you're here and you're there. And it's very much that whole process of the scribble emotion where you think you've made more progress than you have, and then you fell apart. And, rah. So you gotta be patient. And remember, the process looks often more like a squiggle than it will a line, circle, spiral, or anything else. Scribble. Mm-hmm. So be patient with yourself. Don't force the release. Don't force the emotions to come up. Let things arise as they will. And the release too, you gotta remember, it's like that release is you not feeding old things or even future things that may not have happened. That whole concept of reliving past events that have happened over and over and over, that is one thing. She can help you release that and detach from feeding that energy. And just, I was thinking in my notes, and letting go of those old attachments of things, old wounds that need to be healed. She can help you work through that healing process and be ready to move on, to let it happen and feel what you need to feel and express it in a good manner, not in a mean kind of petty way. And when you kind of cut this energy off of the Lady of the Harvest and deny her and refuse to let go of things or refuse to process the emotions, people, that's when you kind of see more of depression, kind of acting out, passive aggressive behavior. It's in that refusal to work with this energy that can really, when you hold on so tightly to something that you can't let it go, that can be very, very detrimental. And you got to remember, there's times where you may think you're holding on, but you're not. You're just in the process. The holding on part is a refusal to be like, move on. If you have ever seen Hoarders, Buried Alive, the TV show, I'd say a good half to 75% of those people have had someone die. And hoarding really took off after the death of that person. That is a denial of the grieving process. They're so stuck in that one spot that they can have other living children who they do not nurture. They dwell on the dead child or the dead relative, the dead spouse, dead mother. Why there's other people in their life they completely deny. So by refusing to work through the processes of emotions that happen with grieving for someone, they ignore those in their life. They push them away by buying a bunch of crap that mice chew, and all sorts of really icky things happen. So that's an extreme example of what the denying of this can do. And it's not that grief doesn't take time, because it can. It can take a long time, depending what that grief is. But it's when you refuse to even let it go at all that things get really bad with her. And there's also a point where you can release too much, oddly enough, where you're like letting it all go. You're like, oh, let it all go. And there can be a tendency to push away people when you're doing this, and not being able to see what you need. And I think part of with releasing too much tends to be when you're kind of stuck in a change modality, and you're like, I'm going to change, and you keep releasing stuff, and then 3 months later you realize you're still releasing stuff that you're really not doing anymore. And there's also, which is part of it, because I've done that myself, but there's also the part where you can push things away. You're letting everything go, and a little too much of it, of that releasing aspect. So it's more of a balance of how can you feel it and heal it and let it flow, as opposed to being stuck somewhere, whether it's denying it or letting everything float out of your life. Okay, that was the Lady of the Harvest. And thank you for watching, and I'll be back next month with another Froud's Fairy card. Bye bye.